I am Daniel Leakes, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is the author of trilogy book Sapiens, no other than Mr. Tia Burnett.
Hello, everyone. Pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is T.O. Burnett. I'm a novelist. I'm been writing novels since December of 2016. Um, as you've mentioned, I've completed a trilogy. I've just recently completed my fourth book, which is unrelated to the trilogy. So things are moving along. So single male, no children, never been married. Writing right now is my life. That's all I do.
Which book we're gonna talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about the first book in my trilogy, and that's called Sapien. Sapien is the name of the series, and for this particular book, that book is Dawn of Oblivion.
Wow, sounds like futuristic.
Ironically, this book, although it is the universe is technologically superior to where we live. This book is set thousands of years in our past, and the idea being that the Sapien universe predates the existence of mankind on the planet Earth.
Wow, what behind the title?
Oh wow! So the reasoning for the title is because the human aspect, sapien, Homo sapien, that's the connection there. Dawn of Oblivion is both foreshadowing of what is to come for my characters, and the it's also uh, representative of the content in the book and the dawn of a new beginning, so to speak, for the people who exist in that solar system. Because the in my universe, and that's in my story, the sequence of events that start off in the opening chapter of that book uh, become the impetus for them migrating from the sapien solar system to our solar system.
Amazing. So, how do you structured?
Oh wow, that's a good question. So in general, I conceptualize for the for my books, create a synopsis, outline, and then draft in that order. Um, I write at a certain time of day. I write the first draft without editing. I do what they call a vomit draft. I put it all out there, interrupt and just get it out. And then I have 8 rounds of edits when I'm done with that process. So that's how I structure that.
Who influenced you to write Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion?
Yes, I was largely influenced by George Lucas, who wrote the Star Wars, who started Star Wars, and also Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune. So basically, mainly vicariously for Frank Herbert because he was the one who influenced largely George Lucas. But the universe I created was I took some of the things that George Lucas did and how he created his universe and kind of mimicked that in structure and the process of story telling the story through a strong protagonist. My main character is not um, like Luke Skywalker, but and is in such and that he's a sympathetic figure, and that he's easy to rally behind. And so I took that, but also I set it up where I could leave room for backstory for him, multiple stories that branch out from the story I've created, and so on and so forth.
Yes. One of your readers says that Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion is like Star Wars and Hunger Games.
That's uh, that's a very good compliment. Um, Star Wars, in that there's interplanetary travel, there's imaginative weaponry, and the world building is very similar. Hunger Games, and that there's a dystopian aspect to it with the burgeoning Supreme Council and wannabe dictator and Chancellor Stephen Aldrich, who is the probably the main antagonist in my story.
Okay. So how about Star Trek?
Oh, I'm a big time Star Trek fan, and especially the original series by Gene Roddenberry that has heavily influenced me as well. So there's as much in my story from that, just from a standpoint of how the things unfold and how the universe looks from Star Trek as there is from Star Wars.
Must be awesome. One of your readers says too that it was brilliantly conceived. How do you conceive it?
How did I conceive it?
Yes.
Oh, Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion. Oddly enough, the impetus of me writing that was a conversation that I had with a coworker. It was about religion, and then it morphed into a conversation about the existence of mankind on Earth and how we um, thought that we got here. So I ultimately decided, I said that there was a possibility that we're all aliens here. And once I opened my mind to that, I went down that rabbit hole, and that turned into a story because it sounded like to me, I convinced myself that I wanted to write that story, and imagine all the ways that that can unfold, and that's where the story began in my mind.
So how many days or month you wrote this book?
Oh wow! It took me 14 months to write *Sapien: Dawn of Oblivion*. I wrote the very first word on December 1st, 2016, and 14 months later, I had a book, and I was able to publish it in March of 2018.
That'd be great. So which part of the book you think that you have these difficulties of writing it?
Uh, what part was the most difficult?
Yes.
Hmm. The the most difficult or the trickiest part, creating the tension and the turmoil between the politicians inside the story, and also navigating structuring the alignment of the planets and navigating the interplanetary travel between them, and also establishing what I call the ethnic code of the solar system, whereby uh, people were not allowed to go from planet to planet without acknowledging, that they were from another planet, and that meant covering themselves up out of respect for the indigenous people of the planet they were visiting.
Yes. So one of your readers says, wonderfully written. What are the elements that you put in the story that makes your reader says wonderfully?
I think that my focus was on making my story easy to read. And listen, that took a few revisions before I got to that point, but I decided that I wanted something that could be delivered in a way that was easy to digest. The concepts that I was delivering were going to be hard enough, so the prose needed to be digestible, needed to be something that people can take in and not have to read 3 or 4 times, because that's something that frustrates me. I don't like the idea of having to read something over and over again for it to sink in, exactly what the author was trying to convey.
Yes, very well said, Mr. Burnett. And one of the comments says of your readers, strong characters. What are the characters of the story that make the whole book, strong?
What are the characters? You want to know which characters make the story strong, or how do I make my
Yes,
character?
let's do the main characters. How strong the character is.
Oh, my main character is a character by the name of Muladi Soldat. He is he's a wing he's a smuggler by trade. So that means he goes from planet to planet delivering things that they couldn't get themselves. He commands a 5-person crew. He's also a Wing Chun master, right? And he was raised in an orphanage, never knew his mother or his father. He was raised by the headmaster, a man named Young Chao Lo, who was a father figure to him and taught him the Wing Chun kung fu technique. And also, the character Muladi Soldat is an introvert, but he's a very good leader and leads his people with an even hand, and knows how to command people.
So let's go to the negative reviews of your readers,
Yeah.
and says that filled with characters with multiple times. What does it mean? It is saying that it make him confused because
Oh,
lots of characters. How you explain that?
yeah. It's an ensemble cast in the story. It's an expansive universe. So like say like Star Wars and like Star Trek, there are multiple players, which is why I wrote this story in the third person omniscient from the third person omniscient point of view, because there were so many players that we needed to get into um, the characters' heads. Yes, I in there's a lot to take in within the first two chapters. I introduced a lot of characters, but the more you read, the more familiar you become with them, and so as the story goes, there are characters that I introduced in the third book of the series that are not in the first book, and that was done for a reason, just for that reason, because there it would I knew that it would become confusing. But there's so I repeat their names a lot and they sink in. So about the third or fourth chapter, you realize, okay, this is who this character is, this is who that character is, and it's no longer confusing.
Yes, that will be the second negative review. You said repeating examples. How do you explain that?
So when you're introducing new concepts to people and things that they haven't heard, there's a lot of things in Sapien that are brand new, that are original ideas. So for in order for me to for it to sink in the same way with the character names, that exactly how things work, I would kind of sort of and say it in different ways so the person could see exactly what was going on. For instance, I have a weapon in there called a twice emitter, and what happens is it shoots a two round projectile. The first being having neurotoxins in it, or medicines in it that cause instant paralysis, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
it makes you immobile for 20 seconds. However, that is the second projectile that that makes it fatal when it becomes when it has contact with it. So the second projectile seeks the coordinates of the first projectile. However, if you extract the second projectile, meaning, for instance, if you shoot somebody by accident with the first projectile, you can simply extract the second projectile and it no longer becomes a threat. However, if you want to kill that individual, if you want the person to die, all you have to do is squeeze the trigger a second time. The second projectile finds the first projectile and it kills the individual.
yes. Very well said. And it says, the reader says, it's just the small part of the story. It's not the whole story. It's probably when you're introducing the characters, he's talking about that thing. What do you think? What is the weakness of the book? The Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion.
The weakness of the book, that's a very good question. I would say the weakness of the book is that it is a first book of a trilogy, and so in that you will get a lot more background information. There's no info dumping in there. I made sure not to do that, but you'll get a lot more background information than you will the subsequent entries into the series. So I have to do a lot of setup of the universe, and let the readers know exactly where they are, and then, for instance, the second part of that book, or the second act of that book, it really takes off and you get into it. And once it picks up and starts running, it keeps going. The second book, for instance, starts in media res, where it starts off with a bang and it just keeps moving from there. And same thing with the third books, because and they feel like they move faster because there's no setup needed. All of the world building was done in the first book.
The best highlight.
Oh wow. The best highlight of the book would be the battle at the Grand Amphitheater, which is the climax of the book. The That's where everything happens. There's I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's a large battle. There's a large battle, including multiple factions that up to that point you didn't think would be able to be in the same room, but they end up there, and it ends up showing the capabilities of my main character, of my crew, and all of the people involved.
Yes. So that will be the best highlight, people. So if you're given a chance to revise the book itself, better editing or whatever purpose, which part of the book you want to revise?
Um, I'm pretty happy with the book as it stands. If I could do it over, and I've already resolved to not do anything differently to it now because it's out there. Because at some point in time, readers have to see where you come from when they look at your next stuff. However, if I were to do anything, I would. My book starts off. The opening chapter starts with my main characters in the tavern, in some of the tavern, after having completed a mission for the tavern owner. If I could do it over again, I would have had them in the middle of that action of actually doing the mission that brought them to the tavern and started the story there. That's the only regret that I have.
But if you're given a chance to revise it, you will do it.
Oh, well, listen, I have an opportunity, but I decided not to because it's just a matter of going onto Amazon and taking it down and putting it in there. But I decided against it because it's you could literally you could chip away at these novels forever, and always add more and more and more. But at some point in time, the story has to be the story.
Yes. So if you're given a chance to have this movie contract, do you want the same title or you want to revise the title itself?
I would I would love to keep the same title, uh, but I fear that just like many adaptations, screen adaptations of novels, they would probably change it, and that would probably be out of my control because that's just like a novelist writes a novel. Screen people write screenplays and people make direct movies. That's their wheelhouse. I would not interfere with that process. So if they wanted to change it, as long as I was given credit, I wouldn't mind.
Do you think this novel is good for a series or good for a movie?
That's a very good question. I think it could work for both. If I had my way, I would rather it be an HBO series because I think it could be told in over a season for everything to be hashed out and all of the different factions to be given the attention that they need to be given.
That'd be awesome. So we are calling what? Amazon or Netflix?
that
Let's
that would
try.
be
Let's
great.
try Mr. Burnett, Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion. One of a kind people, just like you're watching, or the combination of Star Wars, Hunger Games, and Star Trek.
And Firefly. There's a great
Yes.
deal. Fireflies are also a great influence on my work too.
Oh wow. So before we go on, I just want to shout out to the people listening, of course, in Canada. Thank you so much. I'm number 79 on Apple chart, and thank you for supporting this podcast. Estonia at 195, Ghana at number 62, Cambodia at 168, Kazakhstan at 74, Lebanon at 122, Pakistan at 75.2, Saudi Arabia at 165, and Trinidad and Tobago at 71.1. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world, like Mr. Burnett.
Haha, nice.
So, Mr. Burnett, what age you realize that you're good in writing?
That would be probably about 18 years of age when I was a senior in high school. Um, True story. I was very comfortable with writing, and I never thought that I was doing anything special until I was my one of my essays was used as an example for the rest of the class by my advanced English teacher when I was in the 12th grade. And I naively thought that writing well was something that everybody could do automatically, but I was wrong and that was because it came so naturally to me.
Yes. So, at that time that you realize that you have this talent to be a writer, is it immediately you do it or somebody encourage you to do it?
I was encouraged. My English teacher, Miss Rose Ellis, who I did dedicate the book to, who was one of the persons that I dedicated the book to, that first book, was a strong influence in that direction. She was very helpful and she encouraged me to write. I had no aspirations of being a writer after that. When I left high school, I didn't pursue it or anything like that. But I came to realize later on in life that I did have a love for it and jumped into it with both feet.
So what is your encouragement to those people out there that they think that they have the talent but they have the second thought to do it?
I say now is the time. Be bold, go forward audaciously, and you know, enhance your talent. There's so many podcasts, so many journals, so many workbooks, everything that's out there, all this information that wasn't available to me when I was young, that they have at their disposal. And I say avail yourself of those things. Learn as much as you can, and then go and write. It takes writing to get better at writing. So write as much as you can, and keep it to yourself. And when you get good enough, present it to the world.
Yes, definitely. So, what are the good characteristics of a good writer?
Uh, I think number one, you have to have an understanding of subject verb agreement. Have to understand the uh, understanding of grammar rules, and have a strong grasp of the storytelling. Three act structure for once, and you have to be self aware. You have to know what your weaknesses are. You have to know yourself and seek self improvement. So, if you have a weakness, attack that weakness, make it a strength, and become a well rounded writer. I just happen to be a naturally gifted storyteller, I believe. And so, even with that, I still had to learn how to meet genre expectations, how to include key scenes in my stories for that particular genre, and to present it in a way that was palatable for my readers.
So, do you think, Mr. Burnett, what is your frustration in writing?
Time, same as everybody else's. The s- Sometimes you want to if I could write all day long every day, if I would, I would do it, but I'm not a full-time writer as of now. So I have, I still work, but that would be my dream, to be able to write exclusively, and that be the only thing. I'm probably about 10 years away from that.
So, do you think being bachelor is a good point to be a writer?
Oh, absolutely. It's very helpful. I couldn't imagine if I had the responsibilities of being a husband or being a father, how much, and I would want to focus on those things first and second, and then writing would have to be third. As it stands, my career is number one, and writing is 1A. So it's right up there, and that's what I do. I don't even have a girlfriend at this point in time. So I dedicate all my free time and all of my energy into my writing.
Do you think that rejection make you better, perfect in the future?
Uh, Not so much rejection, because I chose to avoid the traditional publishing route. So, what I think is understanding, once again, understanding your weaknesses, understanding your flaws, and being honest with yourself is the path to success with writing. Listen to the feedback that you get, listen and be objective about it, and try not to take it personally, and improve yourself.
What is one of your weakness?
One of my weaknesses,
Yes.
I think that I'm constantly always thinking that I'm just a little bit better than I am. I think that's a weakness. So, always, hindsight is 2020. So it always takes me to get better to look back at what I did, just to realize that no, I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was. So,
One of your weakness. So people are listening on my podcast, Book 101 Review. I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101. On my third season, it's all about food, 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 people. We are talking about Italian cuisine. If you're interested to how to cook or what are nice to cook in Italian cuisine, please do listen. Food 101 on number 12 best food podcast on the planet. So, Mr. Burnett, what else you can say?
Sapien is a fun read, although very violent. It's fans of Firefly, Star Wars, kung fu movies will love it. It's all those things roll into one. My main character is a combination of Bruce Lee and Luke Skywalker. So if you can imagine those two people and Han Solo. So Bruce Lee, Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo all mixed together.
Wow, that's awesome. Just like I'm saying, it's a combination of Star Wars, Hunger Games, and Star Trek.
That's correct. That's correct. You are
That'd
spot
be
on.
awesome. That'd be awesome. So, people out there, movie outfit we want to make this novel into a motion picture or a series. it's
That would
one,
be fantastic. Yes.
it's one of a kind, people. So please, just think those combinations: Star Wars, Hunger Games, and Star Trek, and most of the good reviews says that strong characters. It was beautiful beyond words, wonderfully written, a great read, brilliantly conceived. So people support because Sapien trilogy is one of a kind. So where do people buy your books?
Books, uh, go to Amazon and get it. That's the only place. I'm not wide. I chose to be in Amazon and KDP on Kindle Unlimited, because I wanted to reach to have it accessible to everybody and easy to find. So right now, that's where it is. Amazon. All three of my books are there. Soon to be a fourth there. So go check it out, and you won't be disappointed.
Yes, let's support Mr. Tour Burnett because trilogy Sapien is one of a kind. And next week we're gonna talk about your Sapien.
That would be Days of Deception.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that thing and we combine together and let's talk this amazing novel of Mr. Burnett. If you're given a chance to give us a prequel of this trilogy, would you like to do so?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm planning a prequel. As a matter of fact, that's going to be a story. It's probably going to be a novella about the main character Muladi Soldat and how his life before he came into the crew of the Whisper. The Whisper is the name of the starship that he captains us, by the way.
That'd be awesome. One of the your reader says, I forgot to ask you this. It was beautiful beyond words.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's incredibly humbling, for somebody to look at it that way. I I think that although it's fiction, there's a lot of honesty in my writing. I believe in verisimilitude. I want my characters to react in certain situations the same way you or I would if we were placed into the situations or predicaments that they were in.
Oh, yes, people. Uh, I just want to summarize what the good adjectives, according to the readers of Mr. Theo Burnett. Strong characters. It was beautiful beyond words. Wonderfully written. A great read and brilliantly conceived. And they compare to Star Wars and Hunger Games. Wow, that's all amazing comments to the readers. So please do support Mr. Theo Burnett. Let's read Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion. Is it available for audiobook,
I wish,
Burnett?
I wish it was, but it is not currently. Uh, I would, I would like to narrate the books myself, and I've been exploring that option, but just have not set the chips and the dominoes in motion for it yet.
But in the future, you're planning to, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Five objectives for Sapien Dawn of Oblivion.
Yes.
Oh, number one would be to take you away from reality, expand your mind. Uh, Number two, to introduce you to a universe that is going to span several books of mine, not just the Sapien series. Number three, to reintroduce certain tropes that are universal or universal truths in every story, good, bad, right, wrong, um, you know, uh, moral decisions that have to be made, gray areas and things like that. That's a really good question. Um,
Yes. That'd be awesome. Very well said. Are you a wide reader for sci-fi novels or sci-fi history or what do you call this about the universe?
I'm not much of a historian, but I do like to read sci-fi. I do like Asimov, George Herbert, as I mentioned earlier. I'm a big fan of Octavia Butler. So yes,
So do you think in the future you can do a different kind of genre, horror or what love story?
I would not. If anything, it would be horror. I would not be good at romance at all. I, that's just not my wheelhouse. So that's, if I know anything, is my weaknesses, and I'm not good at romance. Axiomatic in in my current living situation, right?
Once again, Mr. Burnett, invite our readers or listeners to buy your books.
Yes, please go and search T.O. Burnett on Amazon. If you do, my stories will come up, and you will see Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion, Sapien, Days of Deception, and Sapien, Then There Was Darkness, all in succession right there on my page. And enjoy them.
Yes, please do support Mr. Burnett because, as I said, if you support them, they give their best. And he's planning to do the prequel, people. So probably the prequel is better than the trilogy.
That's correct. That's correct. We should hope so.
And thank you, Player FM, for being number 6 of the best book review podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Modicum people, see you soon.